Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this session. So, in the initial poll, I got to know that a lot of you are not Jamboree students. So, I'll very quickly, for your benefit, little bit about Jamboree. So, we have been around since 1993. We coach for exams such as GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, IELTS, SAT, and we do a fair bit of university admissions counseling. We only focus on the handful of exams, and we want to do a very good job of that. We, unlike other companies, we don't do like CAT or CLAT, GATE. So we don't have a huge bunch of programs that we offer. We coach for only certain programs, and we do university admissions counseling. And because we focus on limited number of things, we tend to do a good job with them. We have 39 physical centers, 20 in 22 cities across 4 countries. We also have a very strong digital presence. We have been taking our classes online since 2014. Our online classes, pre-recorded videos, they are already available, and that's one of the reasons why when the pandemic and started, the lockdown was imposed, we were able to seamlessly move from a classroom training product to online teaching. So our classes have been going on online since March. We did not lose even a day of classes. Because we already had the infrastructure and the systems in place that enabled us to teach online. Those of you who have not started your GRE preparation yet, or somebody, or if you want a free demo class of GRE to know how our techniques, our methodologies, etc., you can leave your number in the chat. We Every year we teach close to 10-15,000 students, and one data point that we are extremely happy with is that about 20% of our students end up scoring 320 or more on the GRE. This is something that we are able to achieve, year on year, every year, right? So I see that a lot of you typing. So just I'll pause for a minute. You don't have to give your names, by the way. I'm able to see your name, so you don't have to give your names, right? So anybody who wants a free GRE demo class to see how we teach, or for the Jamboree students, if you want a profile evaluation session, if you want to have a conversation with an admissions counselor about what you can do to improve your profile, or for your current profile, what kind of GRE score you should be targeting for the colleges that you have in mind, or for your kind of profile, what kind of colleges you stand a good chance of getting admission in. So any these kind of conversations, which we call a profile evaluation session, if you want to have with an admissions counselor, also feel free to leave your number. So somebody from our team will get in touch with you. Okay, a lot of you are typing your numbers, so just do hurry up. So some of you, if you have already done with everything, you are just you just want help with your SOP. So we can do that as well. We offer different types of services. So if you just want us to write your SOP, everything else you have already done on your own, so that is also possible, right? So this session I hope to wrap up by 7:15 ish. By that time, I hope we'll be done with the content. Some of you are asking when this session will get over, so I hope that answers your question. All right, so those of you who are still typing, please finish typing your details. I will move on, right? Some of you have joined a bit late, so I'll just reiterating. the how the session is going to be structured is that I would first like to go through the information that I want to give. So at that point, just listen. Don't type in your questions in the chat because I will not be able to address those while I'm speaking. Once I'm done with the information that I want to communicate, I would be taking your questions. So there will be a Q&A session, right? Sushil Vardhan. So yes, GRE demo or IELTS demo. If anybody wants a demo of IELTS or demo of TOEFL, all of that is also possible. Just write when you're giving your number. When you're giving your number, just specify. So if you specifically want IELTS or TOEFL demo, write that. Otherwise, we will assume that you want a GRE demo. So I am not from the sales division, so I will not be able to tell you the pricing, etc. So if you're leaving your number, then somebody from our team will get in touch with you, and they are the ones who will let you know about the pricing, etc. Right? I'm more of a subject matter expert than from the sales division. Right? Okay, moving on. Okay, so what is an SOP? So everybody knows the full form of SOP, I'm sure. It stands for Statement of Purpose. This is probably the most important document you will be writing in your application, because this is the document that universities pay a lot of attention to. The rest of your online application is just data, right? Your marks will be there, your college details will be there, your GRE scores will be there. So those are just data, right? But universities want you to write a statement of purpose to understand your reasoning behind wanting to do a certain program, what other things you have done, are you are you a good fit for the program? So all of those things, you kind of have to write in your statement of purpose. So for me, in short, the SOP is your sales pitch to the university. So everybody knows what a sales pitch is, right? So when you go to buy anything, whether it's a bank or a supermarket, when you go to buy something, the salesperson there tells you, okay, that this product, these are the positive things, this is durable, this is blah blah blah, etc. So they give you a sales pitch. Sales pitch means reason why you should buy something. Okay. Now, when you are applying to a university through the SOP, you will be giving you reasons to the university to give you an admission offer. You should make yourself look like a very attractive candidate for the university, right? So it has to be confident. So this by default means that don't write anything negative in your statement of purpose. Your statement of purpose is a sales pitch. Think in these terms. If you let's say, if you go to buy a washing machine, the salesperson will never say that this machine is good, but it breaks down every 6 months. Nobody gives you a negative point, right? Therefore, even if you do have negative points in your profile, some of you may have a lot of backlogs, some of you may have a dropped year, whatever. Everybody has negative things in their profiles. So those negative things should not be mentioned in the SOP. Every year I read SOPs, and sometimes I see that students use the SOP to explain why they have low marks or why they have a break after class 12. So that's a very bad strategy. Your SOP should have only and only good things. Any negative things in your profile, the entire online application form will take all your data. So you don't have to just step forward and say that, oh, this is what is missing in my profile, or no, I didn't get good marks because I fell sick, etc., etc. So don't use the SOP to give an excuse. Your SOP is a sales pitch. Therefore, it should only project the best things about you in the best possible manner. Okay, I hope that's clear. I hope the objective of the SOP is clear to everyone. So when you finally sit down to write your application, keep that in mind. Now, what is a good SOP? Okay, so there are certain things that you definitely must do in an SOP, and there are certain things that you must not do in an SOP. So I'll just quickly go over that. So an SOP should tell a story. Okay, content and flow are more important than language. What you sometimes I get SOPs from students. They start with this like beautiful quotes from some novel, etc., or some scientist, and then it will have big lot whatever vocabulary they learned For the GRE exam, they would put in the SOP, right? Um, but that makes it very jarring, right? In day-to-day language, nobody writes like that. So make sure that your it's now your the reading of your SOP should be effortless. It should not seem like you are using all your GRE vocabulary in the SOP. Plus, never ever start an SOP with a quote. No, it's not an essay. It is a sales pitch document. So don't start like SOP with a quote, some beautiful language. Stay away from flowery language, you know, unless you are applying for creative writing program. If there's anybody applying for masters in creative writing, masters in English honors, so all of that, then yes, you have to showcase your English, your command over the English language. Everybody else, especially the ones who are applying for engineering or science related programs, you don't have to use flowery language. You have to showcase your technical ability. You have to showcase your work, right? So just keep that in mind. The language, what kind of vocabulary you are using, that's not important. If the language and vocabulary were important, then students from non-English speaking countries such as China, Russia, France, they would never get admission. But that's not the case. Most international students in US and Canada are Chinese and Indians. In India, at least we know English. In China, they don't even study in English. So please understand that the focus, universities are also not looking for really great English or really great vocabulary. They are looking for reasons to give you an admission offer. So give them those reasons. Okay. And the SOP, the transition from paragraph to paragraph should be smooth, right? So whatever information you are giving in the SOP, uh, don't make it like when you read, it should not feel like, oh, ab kya aa gaya, like, oh, what is this, where did this come from? It should not be like that. So the transition between the paragraphs should be smooth. The way it's organized, it should be smooth, right? So then there must be, now this is very, very critical. There must be no spelling or grammatical mistakes. When you are writing your SOP, use MS Word with the auto spell checks on. There is also a tool called grammarly.com. I don't know whether you know about this or not. So I'll just type it out in the chat window for your benefit. It's called grammarly.com. If you go to this website, so you can they have these extensions that you can put on your computer, on your browser, as well as for MS Office. So it will auto check your the way you are writing. So so there should be no spelling or grammatical mistakes. Stick to American spellings. Even if you're applying to British schools or Australian schools, stick to one type of spellings, right? I hope you know that there are two types of spellings. There's British English and there's American English, right? So stick to American English. Set those, in your MS Word, change the settings, go to language and change the settings to English US. Okay. When you have spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes, you may think, no, what's the big deal? Ek spelling mistake to chalta hai. I mean, it's okay to make a couple of spelling mistakes. So you may think like that, but the universities think of that as carelessness. That means you are not even serious about your university application. So how are you going to be serious about your master's program? So it's a kind of like it's an indication of how serious you are, how diligent a student you are. So for you it may be just one or two mistakes, but the university's interpretation of that is completely different. So not just the SOP, anything that you write in your online application. In your online applications, some of you have started filling out the online applications, so so your online applications are quite lengthy. So whatever you are typing in the online applications, you should either put them on MS Word, copy paste on MS Word and check for grammar and spelling, or install the grammarly.com extension on your Chrome or whatever browser you may be using. Okay. So just make sure that your application overall does not have any spelling or grammatical mistakes, and your SOP should definitely not have any spelling or grammatical mistakes. Some of you may not be very confident of your writing skills. Perfectly fine, understandable. So a lot of you are engineers or from science background. You are not expected to have like stellar, writing skills. So it's okay not to have perfect or great, grammar knowledge. So if you are not very sure of your grammar knowledge, then write short sentences. Okay, when you write short sentences, then your chances of making mistakes, that those chances are less. So anybody who is not who thinks that any of you who thinks that your grammar is not very good, for instance, just write, stick to shorter sentences, stick to active voice, don't write very complicated sentences, and if you are writing a long sentence, please check for punctuation. So punctuation means comma, full stop, etc. One common thing that I see, in SOPs is that students just mess up the punctuation. They don't use commas, so, or they use them wherever they put the comma wherever they want to, right? So if you are writing a complex sentence, use the punctuation correctly. These are small things for you, but this make an the impression on the admissions committee. Okay, so make sure that you write correct English, correct spellings and correct grammar, and any long sentence must have punctuation. All right. Okay. The ideal length for an SOP should be about 700 words unless otherwise specified. That means some universities will give you a word limit. So some of the universities that I have seen this year, at least, so they have given the word limits of 500 words. At the same time, I have also seen universities where the word limit is 750 words, right? Or 1000 words. So check the requirement of the universities. So the requirement can be in two parameters. Either they will give you the word limit, or they will give you the character limit. It's rare, but you may also see universities which will give you a limit in terms of characters, right? So character limit means, it includes the spaces, it includes the full stop, it includes all punctuation marks. So the universities would give you either a character limit or a word limit. Okay. Now, what do you think? If a university, let's say, for an SOP, the word limit is 500, for example, can you is five? Can you like write 510? Can your SOP have 510 words? What do you think? So if the if the word limit given by the university is 500 words, can your SOP have 510 words? Okay. First of all, it's not. So in India, we think that, okay, I mean, it's not bargaining. It's not bargaining. If some, it's if the university says 500 words, it has to be within 500 words, not even 501. You may think that, oh, it's okay, fine, one or two words. But how universities interpret that is that they think that this person is not even, able to follow simple instructions. How is he going to do research? Okay. So make sure that, if there is any word limit specified, if there's any word limit specified, stick to it. If the word limit is 500, your SOP can have 450 words, 490, 480, that's fine, but definitely not 501, right? And wherever the word limit is not given, wherever the word limit is not given, then a 700 to 750 word SOP is fine. Anything less will be too short, anything more will be way too long and boring, right? So 700, 750 is a sweet spot, but it does not mean that it cannot be 760, right? So wherever the word limit is not given, a 700 to 750 word is fine. Now, how can you count words? If you write your SOP in MS Word, so MS Word has the word count thing, right? So it's quite straightforward, actually. You type it out, and what the word count will be there. Okay. And in some universities, you will see something called 1 or 2 pages. 1 or 2 pages means 1 or 2 A4 sheet pages, right? And with 1.5 line spacing. Line spacing should be 1.5, and all margins should be at least 1 inch, right? So and the font should be 12 times New Roman 12. So if the, and now it's very rarely one, just I have seen only 1 or 2 universities which may give you the length as 1 or 2 pages. Now 1 or 2 pages does not mean that you use a font size of 5 or 8 and cram everything into it. That, or like single line spacing. So that's not, that's not allowed. So it means 1 or 2 pages when it comes to like writing academic documents. Okay, so that means 1.5 line spacing. That means space between 2 lines should be 1.5. All those settings are there in MS Word, you just have to kind of find them. Okay, and 1 inch page margins means like, this is the page, so again the settings will be there. So you leave 1 inch here, you leave 1 inch from the top, you leave 1 inch from all both sides and bottom, right? Okay, and the font should be Times New Roman 12. Don't use fancy fonts. Don't use, any, like, any kind of fancy fonts. Stick to it. Arial is also fine, by the way. Arial or Times New Roman. Times New Roman is the font that is used for most academic writing. Some of you, if you have written papers, etc., you would know about this already. So Times New Roman should be the font, and font size 12. Right, so whether you are writing SOP, LOR, or CV, any kind of document that you are writing from for your application, the font should be Times New Roman 12. Is this clear? So Abir, you are asking, should we make SOP in LaTeX or Word? See, see, in the online application format, you will have to upload either a Word document or a PDF file. So whatever it is, just, that's what will be allowed for you to upload. You cannot upload an Excel file, or you cannot upload anything else, right? Google Docs will not work. You cannot upload Google Docs, right? So the online application will allow you to upload only Word documents or PDF files. Okay, moving on. So these are the technical requirements of an SOP. And remember, a well-written SOP plays a major role in getting admission, and more importantly, financial assistance. Right, so SOP, very often we see that students with almost the same profile, somebody ends up getting a scholarship and somebody does not. So the SOP is the make or break in that thing. Right, so your profile that is presented well in an SOP, that can ensure that you get admission as well as scholarship. All right, now we are getting into the content part, so please pay attention. Some of you have joined late, so I repeat, while I am speaking, please don't type your questions in the chat window. I would first like to get done with the information that I want to communicate, and then we'll have a Q&A session. Right? Okay, so an SOP should address the 4 questions. There are 4 questions that a good SOP should address. Should address means it does not mean that it should be in the Q&A format, by the way. But after reading your SOP, the admissions committee should get answers to these questions. So the first question is that what do you want to pursue? Now this information should be there in the very first paragraph, right? And this is not something that you should have at the end. At the very outset, at the very first paragraph, it should be clear what you're applying for. Now in this, don't be vague. The language should not be vague. Don't say things like, I am applying for a graduate program in computer science from your university. Now graduate program can mean a master's program as well as a PhD program, right? So don't use vague terms. Use the exact name of the program for that university. And a lot of you will be using almost the same SOP for different universities. Everybody applies for 4 to 6 universities, so you'll be using almost the same SOP. So be very careful that you change the name of the program in every university. Check the name of the exact program. Even something as basic as computer science, in some university it can be called masters in computer science. In some university it may be called masters in computer sciences, right? So please check, whichever university you are applying to, please check the exact name of the program in that university and use that name. Be very clear about the program that you are applying for. If you are applying for like PhD, then okay, PhD in biological sciences or PhD in immunology, whatever it is. You can say doctorate program in immunology, doctorate program in I don't know, mechanical engineering. You can say doctorate program, but don't say graduate program, right? So do do clarify in the very first paragraph, right? Then next, so after reading the your SOP, the admissions committee should get an answer to, do you have the adequate background, to pursue the degree that you want to pursue. Let's say you want to pursue a computer science, degree. So do you have the adequate background? See, these master's programs and PhD programs, MS and PhD programs are academic degrees. Make no mistake, they are academic degrees, right? So it's not like an MBA. MBA is different, so these are academic degrees. So you have to have the adequate, academic background. So if you're applying for electrical engineering, so what have you done, to justify that you have the necessary knowledge to pursue a higher degree in electrical engineering, right? So this is the part. Now this portion, this will be at least 3 to 4 paragraphs, right? This, to answer this question, you will need at least 3 to 4 paragraphs. And how do you justify, how do you uh, convince the university that you have the adequate background? So write about your bachelor's degree curriculum. So write about your bachelor's degree curriculum. If there are any electives that you may have taken specifically to to pursue your interest, then write about those. You don't have to give your marks, right? So don't say that I got 90%, 86%. Don't give numbers in the SOP as far as possible, because that portion is already there in the online application. So just talk about how did you pursue your interest, right? Any projects that you may have done. Okay, this is very important. So one paragraph can be about the curriculum, different types of courses, different types of electives that you may have taken. The one paragraph can be about the your industrial trainings, projects, etc. If you have done multiple projects, then maybe 2 paragraphs. And when you talk about any project, don't just give the name of the project, right? Give 1 or 2 sentences about the project. If you have used any particular equipment or methodology for the research done in the project, then write about that. Okay. And if you have published anything, then write about that. So that this will be at least a paragraph. Those of you who have work experience, some of you may have work experience, then you should include a paragraph about how you put your knowledge into practice in your work. So during your work, how did you learn new things? What are the new things that you may have learned? And how did you practically apply whatever you have learned, right? So people with work experience should also have a paragraph about that, right? So those of you who are looking for a change, some of you are let's, for example, you have a bachelor's in engineering degree, maybe something, and but now you are applying for I don't know, master's in financial engineering kind of program. So which is like not directly related to your bachelor's degree. So there you have to talk about your skills, that you have. You should talk about your good hold on numbers, that you have got good number crunching ability, that you have got analytical bent of mind. Give examples of those, right? So anybody who is pursuing a master's degree or PhD degree that is not directly related to your bachelor's degree, you have to then talk about the qualities more than the data, right? Qualities in the sense that you are able to do independent research. So the same project, instead of focusing on the technical detail, technical nitty-gritties, talk about how you are able to do independent research, how you have got a research bent of mind, etc., etc. So those SOPs are little difficult. People who shift, after their bachelor's degree, people who shift, somebody may have done a degree in mechanical engineering, but now wants to do a master's in manufacturing engineering or nuclear engineering, for instance. So those SOPs are slightly more difficult to write, because convincing the university of this becomes slightly difficult. So it just means that you will have to pay more attention to your SOP. Similarly, some those of you who are applying for MBA, for instance, right? So you have to that you have to kind of then give again focus on the qualities rather than the technical parts. And these SOPs are slightly more difficult to write. Okay, the next question. So that your SOP should answer is, why are you applying to that university? Now this is the part where most students struggle with, right? That they or they just don't even include this. A lot of the students, they don't have any paragraph about this. They just conclude the SOP. Some students, they have a paragraph, but they try to act smart, right? Instead of giving university specific data, they would just say, because the university has world class faculty, world renowned faculty, cutting edge technology, state of the. So they try to act smart. But please understand that you are not the first person trying to act smart with that university. So obviously it will not work, right? So when so your SOP must have, so your either your second last or last paragraph should be about why you are applying to that specific university. And even if you keep the rest of your SOP same for all the universities that you apply to, this one paragraph you have to do university specific research, you have to give university specific data. Now what kind of university specific data you can give? So do some research on the university website, right? Give name some of the courses that are offered in that university, and write that you want to like pursue these 2 3 courses, and how it is related to your research, etc. Name a few faculty of that university that you want to like with whom you want to work, right? And don't just you don't give more than 2 3 faculty names also. So go to the department page, and under that you will see either a faculty page or a research page. So find a couple of faculty whose research interests are the same as yours, right? And then just include their names in the SOP, saying that I would like to work in the research groups of professors X, Y, and Z, let's say. And when you're doing this, so you get, what happens is that if the university thinks that you are good enough to be given admission, your file will be forwarded to these 3 professors. And if these professors think that, okay, this guy will be a good fit in my research team, you may get research assistantships. So there are multiple advantages of including faculty names in the SOP. But of course, do the necessary research. Don't just give random faculty names. Okay. And if you're applying for PhD, especially if you're applying for PhD, write to these faculty also. Write to the faculty, and if you are able to get any reply for them, then you can say that I have been in touch, or I have interacted with Professor X, and my interactions with him have further motivated me to apply for this program, something like that. Okay. So do talk about, in short, you can give something other information also, but do spend enough time researching the university. Don't write generic stuff. Okay. Everybody clear? So when I say, some of you are asking, can we talk about syllabus? Yeah, so that's what I said. When you specific courses means a syllabus, right? If there's anything interesting about the syllabus, definitely you do that, right? So some of you want to know how to find faculty names. I already told that. Go to the department page of the university that you are applying to. In the department page, there is always a link that's called research. Go to that research page, find the different faculty working in different research fields, and pick somebody, especially if the field that you want to pursue. If you're not very specific about what kind of research you want to do, then pick a faculty who is doing research in the field in which you have done your final year degree project. So that is also a safe method. Okay, some of you may not be clear, right? what you want to pursue, or etc etc. So somebody who is doing research in the same field in which you have done your final year project, that should also be fine. Okay. Okay, the last question. Now, till now, what have you done in your SOP? You have told the university what you want to pursue. You have told the university, given like proof to the university that you will be a good fit for the program. Then you have told the university why you want to, specifically apply to that university, right? So, what have you not done till now? What have you not done till now? So till now, you have not given the university any reason to, take you. So why should the university take you? You have only told the university, why you want to go there. Why should the university take you? I mean, there's going to be lots of applicants with higher GRE scores, better profiles, better research. So why should the university give preference to you over them? So this is an extremely important part of the SOP, and this should be the last paragraph. Now you should end your SOP strong. So this should be the last paragraph of your SOP. This is where you talk about your USP. How are you different, from the other applicants? And in this part, you talk about your qualities, your anything that is good about you. Maybe you have got very strong extracurricular activities. Maybe you have been, doing part-time work while you are doing your bachelor's degree studies and funding your own education. Anything that is interesting about you, anything that is your USP. Look around you. Anything that sets you apart from your peer group, that's what should go in. If you don't have anything of that sort, then you can even write about your career goals, right? And the career goals should be big. It should not be something very generic. It should not be because I want to work in Amazon, or because I want to work in, Microsoft or Apple. So those are not big enough career goals. Career goals should be big and ambitious, right? So this last paragraph should be about you, about you as a person, not you as a student, but you as a person. I have had students, who wrote about, a couple of sentences, who wrote about some personal hardships that they have gone through. There was a student who lost his father in the middle of his third year engineering exam. So he talked about that, how he coped with that, how he handled his mother while keeping an eye on his academics. That was a very powerful personal story, right? And he said that, so that has made me mature, that has made me responsible, good at multitasking. So he talked about that experience and talked about how that shaped him as a person. I had a student who he grew up in a, he was a Kashmiri Pandit, and he grew up in a refugee camp in Delhi. So he wrote about how that made him appreciate, little things in life, how he became resourceful, he became confident in himself. So any personal experience that has shaped you as a person, you can write about that as well. So, and it is going to be very, very subjective. Each of you will have a different story, because each of you are a different human being, right? So you'll have a different story. So please think about this paragraph. This is the will be the last paragraph of your SOP, and you should end strong. After reading your SOP, after reading your story, the admissions committee, they should remember your story. The admissions committee members are going to probably read 100 200 SOPs in a day. So is your case going to stick in their minds, right? So think about it. So don't just like copy templates from the internet and like write. So that's a very bad way to write an SOP. The when your first draft of the SOP, you should invest at least 7 to 10 days. The first draft, should not be written in a hurry. It should take about 7 to 10 days. Sometimes it takes students 2 to 3 weeks to finalize the SOP. Remember, initially I told you that this is the most important document in your application file, even more important than your GRE score and your academics. Why? Because guaranteed there will be more students who will have like scores higher than you, academics are better than you, research profile better than you. But how you are presenting it in the SOP, that is where you have control now. right? So please invest enough time and energy on your SOP. Don't make it a last ditch effort. Okay. So now, a lot of you are asking, how many paragraphs should I have, how many, etc., etc. So that totally depends on your like, your story, right? So, Natasha, probably you did not hear what I said. I said the last paragraph. This is where you talk about who you are. If extracurricular activities are good, social community service is there. Just think about what it is about you. So, and write about that. And it should not be that very long. 4, 5, 6 sentences more than enough. Okay. So, Kriti, you were asking, where should we address the gap year taken? First of all, there's no need to explain that. But if you do feel the need to explain, so after class 12, like 50% of Indian students have a gap year. Okay. So that is not something you have to like, proactively explain in your application, especially not in the SOP. So, so within the same university, first of all, Kriti, Krupali, I don't know if it's possible to apply to two different programs in the same university. In at least in the US universities, it's not. Some of the UK universities allow that. And it's always a little confusing. So you may, in your SOP, you have to like write enough points for both. So, so I'm done with this with the session. So any of you, if you want a GRE demo class, or if you want our help with writing the SOP, we do have detailed admissions counseling services also, where we help students right from shortlisting universities to financial assistance to everything. But we also specialize in our SOP writing services. If you do want information about it, or if you do want help with that, you please leave your number in the chat. Right. And so if anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand. I will give you mic access, and then you can ask your question. Please do not ask me about the pricing, etc. As I had told you earlier, I am not from the sales department, so I would not be able to tell you the pricing. If you do want to know about the pricing, etc., then leave your number in the in the chat, and we'll take that up. So Ananya B, what's your question? You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, Ananya, I can hear you. Now I can't hear you. Hello, hello. I think I lost you.
Yeah. I just wanted to know, how do we mention about backlog? Hello. Okay. Shall I
Okay, now I
tell
can
you?
hear you again. Now I can hear you again. So yes, backlogs, so that will be there in your transcripts, etc. So you don't have to write anywhere about your backlogs. You don't, if you feel that there's a genuine reason that maybe you fell sick or something, etc., then in the online application form there is usually space to write an optional essay. So if there's a genuine reason for your backlogs, then use that space to explain that. If not, you don't have to say anything. See, don't draw attention to the weak points in your profile. Highlight the strengths. Okay. Anvesha Bando. Bando. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not able to pronounce it. Yes,
Bandyopadhyay. Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, so basically, I am going to apply for a PhD program in management to some of the universities in America as well as in USA, and I want to know what kind of things should come as a highlighting feature in my SOP. So I have research background and everything during my masters. Anything that I should totally go for highlighting?
For PhD students, your CV is also very important. In your CV, you should give details of the publications. right? So in addition to the SOP, your CV is also very important. So the details of your publications, the links to the application to the publications that you will give in your CV, right? Your SOP should have the, to be able to do those publications, you may have had done the projects, right? So give detail, like kind of like an executive summary of each of the projects.
Okay, and say if I have done a research in an area, also like apart from the area that I want to do my PhD in, if I have done a particular research in some area which is not related to that but has been recognized as a good research work, should I also mention that?
Yes, you should. Yes, you should. And it's not just for PhD, for everybody else. If let's say you have done 2-3 projects and they are very very like diverse and not related to one another, still give details of those projects. And the point tying all those projects should be is that your ability to do independent research. So that's what you should be focusing on, that you have a research orientation, that you can do independent research, that you like doing independent research. So that
Yes.
should be the point, tying the different projects, especially for those students who have a diverse set of projects.
Yeah, that is exactly my case because my projects have been really
Yeah, most students are like that. That's perfectly fine.
yeah,
Universities
okay.
understand that that students may have to do 2-3 different types of projects to finally find what their true
Yeah,
interest.
right. Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, I see a question in this chat, that is research work and publication necessary? It's not mandatory, but it does help if you are looking for scholarships. Having research work, publication, etc., if you have those, then it will make your profile stronger for sure, but it's not mandatory. Shubham, what's your question? Shubham?
Hello.
Yes, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. I'm in the process of writing an SOP, and I'm struggling with the essay of in which I have to explain about why I want to get into this university. So could you please give me a more information on that, because I'm really struggling about that, because I've been to many colleges website or universities websites, but it's very difficult. It's very getting very difficult for me to find the right point or what to mention in that.
So, as I mentioned earlier, in the just as a two things that we can recommend you to include is that name some of the courses that you want to apply, and name a couple of give the names of a couple of faculty or research labs of that university that you want to be a part of. Those are the easiest things to do. But if you have been in touch with some faculty of that university, then you can always use their names as well.
Okay. And ma'am, about the last paragraph, as you said that in the last paragraph, I have to mention why the university should choose me. But apparently, more I have gone through 2 or 3 SOPs of this, like about my friends, and they have told me that the last paragraph they wrote about in their SOPs is about the university, the one I was asking about, why should I get into this university. So what would you recommend? The one
No,
you have suggested?
our professional recommendation is that, see, is when you read a book or an article, the last paragraph is what stays with you, right? I'm sure you
Yes.
will agree, right? So
Yeah,
that's
I'm
why
getting you.
you should end strong. The admission committee may not remember the details that you wrote in the first paragraph, second paragraph, but if you end on a very strong last paragraph, then it does, it has a maximum impact. However, I'm not saying that if you like write about the university in the last paragraph, you will you will get rejection. I'm not saying that, but the objective of the SOP is to have the maximum impact, right? So the maximum impact happens when you end in an extremely strong manner.
Okay. Thank you so
The
much, ma'am.
second last paragraph can be about the university, about
Oh,
that specific university.
I'll keep that into mind. Thank you.
Right. All right. Spurti. Spurti, what's your question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So you mentioned that it's not good to add percentages in SOP. So is it fine if we have percentages in LOR?
see your percentage, that data point is going to be there in the online application, right? And when you have when you have multiple, like, documents or options, then I mean, this doesn't make sense to repeat the information. However, if there is some, in your LOR also, instead of talking about percentages, instead of including the percentages, if the faculty, if the, like, your teacher or professor writes something like, Spurti, in my 15 years of teaching experience, I would definitely rate Spurti as one of the top 5% students I have taught. But that has far more impact than saying Spurti scored 90%,
Okay, yeah.
So do use data, but not data that is there in the online application form, in the transcripts. Don't like duplicate information.
Okay, got
It's
it.
not a, utilize every possible document to the fullest.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Janavi, what's your question? Janavi, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, this is Janvi here. So I had a couple of questions. So we were talking somewhere about publications, right? So I don't have a publication right now, but I have applied right now. So now that I've got time to do everything about MS, so I included that also, and I have given my paper to to a conference. So it's gonna take time. So I don't know. I mean, can I mention that because I don't have a
Yeah, you
full-fledged.
should. Yeah, you should. You should say that abstract submitted, for publication. You should say that.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Not just abstract, I've given the whole paper. Probably we will be presenting also, but the publication will take a lot of time, let's say next year mid.
That's
So I
okay.
can
That's perfectly
mention
fine.
that.
Yeah, of course you
Oh,
should. You should. Yes, yes.
okay. So the second question is, so my case is a little different. So I've already done my MTech in IIT Delhi. So now I'm applying for MS in a totally different field. So I'm from VLSI background, but I'm going to apply to computer science. So how is my case different, and what should I focus on?
You have, like, in between, you have work experience in computer
Yes,
science.
yes.
That's
No,
fine.
not computer science. So I have worked in Intel and Qualcomm, so that's completely VLSI. But computer science, it's not like far off from what I'm doing. So I do have points on why I should apply for computer science, but I'm also a little skeptical because I'm from electronics and VLSI.
That might be a, especially because computer science is the most competitive field. Most
Exactly.
Indian
Yeah.
students. So I'm not sure. I mean, if possible, try to apply for EECS programs, where you can talk about
Huh.
your interest in VLSI, embedded systems, etc., etc. I mean,
Hmm.
which is closer to the, electronics part than like the coding part. So
Hmm.
I mean, as far as possible, try to apply for under the EECS departments, of universities. But yeah, it's going to
Okay.
be tough. Computer science, like 50-60% of the Indian students apply for computer science. So universities will need a very, very strong reason for taking somebody with a non-computer science background when they have such a
Hmm.
plethora of applicants with computer science backgrounds. That's why sometimes we get students who have done even engineering in mechanical or civil, but worked in software industry for 2-3 years, then applying for computer science. So their case is fine. They get admission because their work experience in computer science. But in your case, I think that's my best recommendation. Unless, are you a Jamboree student?
Yeah, as in I've taken that test series thing, and yeah, I'm also in talks with one person to help me out with my application.
Then do have a, like, detailed discussion about. I mean, it's not that we don't deal with students like you, but it's always a
Hmm.
little bit more difficult. That not just your academic degree, even your work experience is in a different field. So why, like, computer science? That becomes a little bit difficult to explain.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it to you. I'm sorry, but uh, that's how it is.
Yeah, but I think my profile is pretty strong. Then I've got my reasons also. I've got
And
some
not just
experience.
reasons. You should have proof. That you are going to do well in computer science. You should have some. You should have done courses in that. You should have some certifications in related to something. Related to computer
Okay.
science. At least you should.
Okay. I've got some certifications. Okay, great.
That should be fine. Okay. All right. Zoravar, what's your question?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. First of all, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that we should write about the projects in the SOP, right?
Yep.
So about that, I come from a technical background and I wanted to confirm if the language that I use for my project, should it be technical or should it be such that a layman can also understand the same? I was not able to
You are
find
going
a
to
lot of
apply, that depends on what you are applying for. If you are going to apply for MBA, then it should be like, language should be targeted at layperson. If you're applying for a master's degree in your own field or PhD degree in your own field, then it should be technical.
Okay, ma'am. Secondly, I do not have a lot of clarity whether I should talk about financial assistance in the SOP.
No, you should not, because I don't know whether you have started online applications or not. In the online application form, there are questions, they will ask you whether you're looking for financial assistance or not. So you will anyway be addressing that in the online application form. So you don't have to write, you should not write it in the SOP.
Perfect, ma'am. So lastly, ma'am, you talked about online certifications. So there are a lot of online certifications available, but I'm not able to make out that which ones are good and which ones are bad. So could you classify them? Which online certifications
You mean
to
for
pursue?
computer science?
Yes, ma'am. Generally, the courses online are available for computer science.
Yeah, see, you have to go with, in this case, you have to go with brand names that are almost everybody would know, for example. So Microsoft professional certifications are good, right? So
Right.
so I mean, if there's something that you are hearing for the first time, then you can be sure that the university will also probably be hearing about it for the first time. So that's a rule of thumb. Go with well-known brand names, right? And if you're doing online courses from universities, do like from the topmost universities. I mean, you can do courses on edX, Coursera, etc., but only do courses from the top universities.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, what are my chances if I do the courses from a university I want to get into? Is that helpful in any way?
It does help if you end up scoring well in that course, and yes, it does help. You should definitely write about it in your SOP anyway. It will strengthen your reason for why that university. You can say that I did one course to try it out and I really like blah blah. So it will seem as if you have done a lot of research on that university, and universities like like those kind of students.
Oh, perfect, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right. Dhwani, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correct. Can you unmute yourself?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes,
My
hi.
question is that I was under the impression that SOP should include only the career path, but as during the lecture you mentioned about a student who included a personal loss and how he coped up with it. So how much part should personal life be involved in SOP?
Just last paragraph, 5-6 lines, not more. And I'm not saying that you have to include your personal life. I said, I don't know, probably you missed it. I said that the last paragraph should be your USPs. If there's anything unique about you, your extracurriculars can be your strongest point. We get students who have played like national level sports, but now applying for masters. So definitely write about your accomplishments in the sports arena. So every person is different, So so it should not be like 50% of the SOP. It should be just the last paragraph.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Utkarsh Agarwal, what's your question?
Hello, ma'am. So my question is, I have a Bachelor of Computer Science, Bachelor of Computer Application, and I've done it like 6 years back. Now, for last 5 years, I've been in cloud computing field, not exactly as a developer, but it's a very related field to computer science. And currently, I'm pursuing full stack development certification, 6-month certification in the full stack development side itself. So, should I mention my incomplete course as well? As in, I'm still 2 months yet to 2 months yet to complete the course. So, can I mention about the incomplete course? So, that is my question number one.
I just let me just go back a bit. So you have done your BCA and MCA both, right?
No, I've just done my BCA, but I have done a postgraduate diploma in internet technology later on, like in the last.
Which is it from a UGC recognized university?
Yes. So my BCA was from Nagpur University, and my postgraduate diploma was from Annamalai University.
Was it a full-time thing or was it a part-time, a part-time online thing, the PG diploma?
Ma'am, the diploma was distance learning, so it's a part time.
Okay, Utkarsh, while applying, you have to be very careful, because as I said, the master's programs, they are like usually, academic degrees. So just check out the eligibility criteria very closely. In some of the universities, you may not be eligible, because your BCA is a 3-year degree, right? If I'm not wrong.
Right, right.
Right. So they may consider only your BCA degree, which is a 3-year degree, right? So anyway, do that research when you finally shortlist your universities. Do check the eligibility criteria. Now coming to
Sure.
your main question about the whole not. So see, you have 2 months to go. You would have completed it by the time you join that university. So that's fine. You should definitely mention.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Right.
Thank you.
Yash Singh Sisodia. Yash Singh Sisodia, you can unmute yourself. Yash, your mic doesn't seem to be working. Okay, let's move on. Sikhar Modi.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. So, like I have been working in a MNC, and like I have experience in 2 MNCs. So, should I mention my work experience also? Like I have been working for last 3 years. So,
I
should
think
I
you
mention
missed.
both of
I
them?
think you probably missed the part where I talked about that. So you should. People with work experience should actually have at least. Have one paragraph where they talk about their work experience.
One paragraph means 5 to 6 sentences.
Yeah, Yep.
So, how should we address it? Like
What?
suppose I'm a mechanical engineer and I'm pursuing for computational mechanics course. So, how should I relate my work experience
So your
to
work
what I'm
experience is in
pursuing?
mechanical engineering or computer science?
Mechanical core designing.
So I don't know what you do at your work, so just write about what you do, what are the different types of things that you have done at your work, what are the new things that you have learned, what are the new methods, or etc etc. Um so yes, do write about your work. For working professionals, must have a paragraph about their work experience in terms of what you learned, not like in terms of what the projects you have done, etc etc.
Okay. And one more thing, how should we start our SOP? There are many, like I was going researching about it over the internet, and I could find like many people starting from a quotation which you totally said that should not be used. So how should we like go on writing? So because first paragraph it's very difficult to write. What all information should we mention in that?
So there's no standard template, purely because if there were a standard template, all the SOPs will start like looking the same. So there is no standard template. So you can start with something like I don't know, that machines have always fascinated me. It can be anything. I don't know. That totally depends on what kind of program you're applying for, how you want to start. But yeah, every SOP has to be unique. That's one of the reasons why we don't give samples or templates.
Okay. There was also this. You also mentioned this that we should mention the course which we are going to apply for
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
paragraph itself.
Yes,
So
yes.
it should directly lead to that. So that's why I'm
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, yeah. So if you can start by saying that machines have always fascinated me since my early childhood. I like playing. Breaking down my toys and putting that together. That this interest, one of the motivations why I took up mechanical engineering for my bachelor's degree. During my 4 years of engineering, I also developed an interest about how remotely machines can be. I don't know, whatever it is, etc etc. And my
Okay.
2-3 years of work experience, I got an opportunity to work, well, three, whatever you do, And now the next stage, to move to the next stage of my career, I feel that a master's in whatever program I'm applying for in your university would give me the perfect platform. That kind of a thing, simple, straightforward.
Okay, okay. To keep it simple.
Yep, 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 yep.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, I will do that. Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right. So we'll took. We have time to take two more questions. If there were, if there's, I'm sure I haven't been able to address a lot of your questions. So please leave your number in the chat. Someone from our team will reach out to you and speak to you. So we'll take two more questions. And those of you whose questions we are not able to answer, please leave your number in the chat. Okay. Ubaid Nasir, what's your question?
Hi, ma'am.
Ubaid.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm a law student and I'm in my final year of law school. So I'm hoping to do my master's. So during the process, there are two questions I want to ask. One is with regard to my LOR and other is with regard to my SOP. Okay, the first question is like, so I have been working, I have had a work experience of as a research assistant, as a student. So with the professor, so who should I which LOR would be better, from a professor who I have worked with or from a professor who has taught me? That would be question number one. And second is, I'm almost done with my SOP. So I'm done with the past, like who am I? Why did I choose this place? Why did I choose this university? Where I get stuck is why this course and why this area of expertise? Yeah.
Correct. So first of all, most universities need to know. What program are you applying for?
So I'll be going for a master corporate law.
Corporate. Okay. So so your so they want somebody they want to know how you are as a student. So your program may require 2 to 3 LORs. So at least two of them you should use from your professors, and the third one you can take from from the person who has worked with you. And the same advice is for all people who have work experience. Out of the 3 letters of recommendations, 2 should definitely be your professors, and the third can be from your workplace.
No, I mean, there are two professors. One is a professor I have worked with him, and the other one he has taught me. So like, which one would be better?
I think taught you will be better.
Will be better. All right, great.
Yep.
What about the SOP?
Okay, SOP, you're saying you're getting stuck with why that course, right?
Why that course and why that area of expertise? Yeah.
So now my question to you is that why that course, and what is the genuine
Because to
reason?
be honest, that firstly it makes a lot of money. You get paid a lot when you do that such kind of a course. That's the honest reason. And second, during my law course, I did a lot of internships. That's what got me involved with corporate law, and that's why that's been a cause
That
of.
is the second reason is a very solid reason, that you can say that you have experienced the world of corporate law, and you think that is where you will excel. Then give some examples of so for example, to do well in corporate law, you would need skills that are different from other branches of law, such as you need to be very articulate, for instance. You have to have very good interpersonal skills, right? Because when you do corporate, or when you'll be interacting with different people in corporate, you need to know how to interact. So you can say that these have always been your inherent skills. If you had any previous experience in your college or school life in debating or in MUS, you can refer to that to showcase that you have those inherent skills. And you can also do a little bit of a, what you can say, extrapolation, and say that corporate law is something with the world shrinking, like give some data points. In the early 90s, there were XYZ number of MNC, global companies. In today's world, it's like the number of global companies have definitely increased. The internet has played a major role in that as well. So and with global companies comes mergers and acquisitions and all of that. So the scope of corporate law probably has doubled in the last decade or so, and definitely it's it interests you, how different companies work together or work with the government, so you can make up some story. I'm pretty sure there's a pretty strong reason for that anyway. I mean, if you work with one of you, I mean, I don't know whether you're a Jamboree student or not, but our writers are usually very good at weaving stories, so you should be fine.
All right, great. Thanks a lot.
All right. Okay, so the last question of the day, and after that, again, if I were not able to answer your questions, please leave your number in the chat. Sanjana, what's your question?
Yes. Hi, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So my first question was, should we be mentioning our overall career goals in the SOP? Basically, where will we be a few years down the lane and how this particular course will help us achieve that? Should that be part of the SOP?
Yes, it should. Either you can do that in the first paragraph where you are saying which program you want to do, or you can, if you have nothing very interesting in your or very compelling for your last paragraph, you can include that in the last paragraph as well.
Okay, understood. And my second question was, like our accomplishments have to be part of the SOP, but I'm a digital marketer and everything that is quantifiable is in my resume, and that is corroborated in my LOR by my founder or my teacher. So now the thing is, how do I avoid repetition? How do I avoid being repetitive in all three formats?
In the SOP, you should not talk a lot about your accomplishments per se, because accomplishments always sound better when they come from other people.
Right.
Otherwise, you run the risk of sounding arrogant. So you just
Right.
tell them about your interest and how you got wherever you are, how we got wherever you are, how did you get there, what you have done, but and just be very modest. Don't, I mean, if you have to talk a little bit about your accomplishments, and don't give hardcore data. You can say, this has helped me earn a lot of respect within my company, this in this kind of sense, because as you say, it's going to be told by your recommender anyway. The data points are going to be given by your recommender. They can then just match these stories, right?
Okay. Okay, sure. Understood. Thank you. That's about it.
All right. So I think that's the end. That was the last question of the day. So you guys have been a really great audience, and I hope you learned. I hope this session was useful to you, and I do hope you will write great SOPs that will help you get admission offers and scholarship offers. Any of you who would want a GRE demo class or help with your admissions, whether it is SOP writing or shortlisting of universities, anything, we'll be happy to help you out. So do leave your number in the chat. We will be reaching out to you. And yes, that's all for now. Thanks for joining, everyone.